Letter 10. Venetian Palaces. Gondolieri, Basilica of St. Mark, Opera, Illumination of the Venice, by Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley. Many of the palaces of Venice still preserve their pictures, and show, in their numbers and beauty, the wealth and taste of the families in old time. The Palazzo Manfred contains, I think, the largest and most choice collection. It has some incomparable pictures by Giorgione, the contemporary and rival of Titian. He also was a pupil of Gian Bellini, but invented a style of his own, and first painted with that richness and grandeur of coloring which is the pride of the Venetian school. His pictures in the Palazzo Manfred are wonderfully beautiful. The Deposition from the Cross, by Titian, is here. Indeed, the collection is in every respect magnificent, and deserves many visits. In the Palazzo Mosaics, which Lord Byron inhabited, there are two palaces Mosaics. It is one of the most illustrious families of Venice. There is the design for the Paradiso of Tintoretto. In the Palazzo Pisani is an admirable picture by Paul Veronese, the family of Darius at the feet of Alexander. It rises above his usual style of mere portraiture into the ideal. There is the true chivalrous expression in the mien and countenance of the youthful victor, the grandeur of habitual command, the dignity resulting from noble ambition. At the same time, you see that his very soul is touched by compassion for the fallen princesses, and the ingenuous shame which a generous mind feels on beholding those lately placed so high humiliate themselves before him, mantles in his face. In the Barbarigo Palace is the Madonna Scapigliata of Titian. Her eyes, swollen and red, are raised to heaven, and her face is disfigured by much weeping. Her remorse, her vehemence of grief, differs wholly from the tender sorrow, chastened and supported by faith, of Correggio's Magdalene. At first sight, the deformity of her features produced by violent weeping is almost repulsive, but the picture gains on you the real beauty of the countenance. A something of noble and soft, in spite of passionate sorrow and self-abasement, is perceptible through her tears. We were taken today to see a modern picture painting for the emperor. It is on a large scale, Foscari taking leave of his father, his mother is fainting, the Doge, struggling with contending emotions, turns half away. The best figure is that of the son, the feebleness arising from physical suffering, veneration for his seemingly severe parent, grief, tenderness, and resignation are well expressed in his kneeling figure and downcast face. The Venetians are much interested at this moment by the restoration of the palla of the high altar of St. Mark's. It required an order to view it, and the other precious objects preserved in the treasury. The Basilica of San Marco is the most singular among the edifices of Venice. Its strange Arab architecture denotes its great antiquity. The ancient chapel of St. Theodore, who, before the transfer of the body of St. Mark was the patron saint of the city, built in 552, was incorporated in 828 in the ancient church of St. Mark, at the time when the bones of the saint arrived. These edifices being consumed by fire, the foundations of the present were laid in 976, and completed in 1071. But even until the middle of the last century, its internal decorations were not completed. Every portion glistens with precious stones. Its walls are covered with pictures in mosaic. Its pavement and the 500 columns that adorn it are composed of verd antique, jasper, porphyry, agate, and the most precious marbles. Usually one cares little for such things, but here the barbaric magnificence, the Eastern aspect, the tombs of heroes it contains, and its association with the glories of the Republic, combine to render the tribute of Mammon to heaven interesting. The high altar has two pale, one covers the other. The internal one, a curiosity from its richness, has been taken down to be repaired. It is called the Palla d'Oro, and is formed of enamel paintings on silver and gold, encrusted with a profusion of gems. It was executed at Constantinople by order of the Doge Piero Orseolo, under whose reign the basilica was finished. It now forms the delight of Venice, and many noble ladies have contributed a quantity of gems to replace those that have been lost. It is a curious specimen of the state of the arts in the Middle Ages, before it revived and received a soul from the great painters of Tuscany and Umbria. It is all glitter and richness, and a sort of barbaric elegance, without real taste. The treasure of St. Mark once overflowed with wealth, in gems, pearls, and worked gold, chiefly transferred from Constantinople. These have all disappeared. The only objects that attract attention are an antique porphyry vase, with letters carved on it, such as are found in Persepolis. A golden rose, one of those which it was the practice of the popes to present on certain occasions to Catholic sovereigns. This had been presented to a doge of Venice. It was no meager gift, being a very large bough, bearing many roses, all formed of the precious metal. Each day we grow more familiar with this delightful city, favorite of Amphitrite and the Nereids. The little roots, generated by sympathy and enjoyment, begin to strike out, and I shall feel the violence of transplanting when forced to go. I look wistfully on some of the palaces, thinking that here I might find a pleasant, peaceful home, nor is the idea, though impracticable for me, wholly visionary. Several of the palaces, bereft of their old possessors, are used for public offices or are let at a low rent. It is easy to obtain a house, whose marble staircase, lofty halls, and elegant architecture surpass anything to be found in France or England. Several English gentlemen have taken apartments and fitted them up with old furniture and find themselves at slight cost, surrounded by Venetian grandeur. No one can spend much money in Venice. A gondola is a very inexpensive carriage. Hiring one, as we do, costs 4 swanzakers a day, about £4 a month, with a buona mano of half a swanzaker a day to the gondolier on going away. Of course, if settled, you must build your own gondola, and to be respectable you must have 2 gondolieri in livery. The appearance of the boatmen dressed like footmen is, to my eye, the only inharmonious sight in Venice. These men used to be reserved only for the use of the gondola and carrying messages, but in these poorer days they serve as domestics in the house. They are still, however, a race apart, thoroughly acquainted with every nook and corner of the city, intelligent, alert, zealous, ready, as we were told of old, to do any bad errand. But with such having nothing to do, we know nothing. We have 2 gondolas in our pay. One of the gondolieri is a favorite, Beppo, number 303, the other Marco, 307. We have no fault to find with either, and they join intelligence to exactness. At first, we would not engage Marco because, accustomed to foreigners, he was proud of his scraps of bad French. We made a bargain with him that he should always speak Italian. Venetian we would not insist upon, for we should not understand him. I am almost sorry to know nothing of Venetian. It was the first dialect formed from Latin that was written. At the time when, in the other cities of Italy, the annals were drawn up in barbarous Latin, the Venetians made their records in their vernacular tongue, which remain to this day in multitudinous volumes in the library of St. Mark. It has been averred that the first colonists from Padua brought this dialect of the Latin with them, and that it is a remnant of the vernacular of Roman Italy. 9 centuries later, the lingua toscana could scarcely be said to exist, the language of Brunetto Latini, Dante's master, being very scant and inefficient. I am told that Dante himself hesitated whether to write his Divina Commedia in Latin or Venetian, till fortunately he became aware that the talk of the common people of Tuscany possessed all the elements of expression, and he, collecting them with that life-giving power proper to genius, created a language, in itself heroic and persuasive, out of a chaos of inharmonious barbarisms. There is, I believe, even at this day, greater scope for wit and airy grace in Venetian than in Tuscan. The gondolieri often sing at their oars, nor are the verses of Tasso quite forgot. One delicious calm moonlight evening, as we were walking on the Piazzetta, an old gondolier challenged a younger one to alternate with him the stanzas of the Jerusalem. I have often wished to hear them. It was a double pleasure that I did not do so by command, but in the true old Venetian way, 2 challenging each other voluntarily, and taking up alternate stanzas, till one can remember no more, and the other comes off conqueror. We are told that the air to which they sing is monotonous. So it is, yet well adapted to recitation. The antagonist stood on the Piazzetta, at the verge of the laguna, surrounded by other gondolieri, the whole scene lighted up by the moon. They chanted the favorite passage, the death of Clorinda. I could only follow the general sense as they recite in Venetian, but the subject of the verse, high and heroic, the associations called up, the beauty of the spot, a sort of dignity in the gestures of the elder boatmen, and nothing harsh, though it might be monotonous in their chaunt. The whole thing gave me inexpressible pleasure. It was a Venetian scene, dressed in its best, and the imagination was wrapped in perfect enjoyment. The weeks pass away, and we are soon, I am sorry to say, about to leave Venice. We have taken our sightseeing quietly, and each day has had a novel pleasure. It is one of our amusements to visit the Piazza of San Marco at 2 in the afternoon, when on the striking of the hour on the great clock, the pigeons come down to be fed. These birds are sacred to St. Mark, and it is penal to kill any. They lead a happy life, petted by all the citizens. Now and then they may be served up at the dinner of a poor man, but they are too many not to spare, without grudging, an individual or two for the good of their maintainers. We have visited the Arsenal, a monument of the glory and commerce of Venice. Silent, empty, useless. One poor brig lies in the harbor. It served during the late war in the East, and the young officer, who kindly acted as cicerone, had captured a Turkish flag, which showed fresh among ancient Venetian trophies. It seemed only a pretty compliment when I told him that it gave me more pleasure than all the curiosities he was showing us, but I spoke the simple truth. Anything that demonstrates the valor and spirit of the present race of Italians is more satisfactory to behold than all the cobwebbed glories of old times. No good opera is going on here. The Venice, the large theater, is only open during Carnival. The most popular amusement is the Famiglia Viennese, about half a dozen children who sing the Barbiere di Siviglia and the Elisir d'Amore. It was very wonderful but not pleasing. There is a young and pretty prima donna, a mezzo-soprano Gazzaniga, who takes the part of Romeo in the Montecchi e Capuletti and sings it very nicely, and there is an amusing buffo. A grand opera was got up at Padua during the visit of the Dotti, and even Taglioni was engaged. There was a talk of her coming to Venice, but it fell to the ground. However, after the learned had dispersed, the operatic company crossed the lagoon, bringing the decorations of Robert le Diable. The Italians do not understand German music. They bring it out because it has been praised, but they do not like it, and alter it, and try to make it coincide with their taste, and spoil it completely. The Emperor Ferdinand's uncle, and the heir presumptive of the imperial crown, is come to spend a day here, and it is thought proper to mark his visit by a festival. The Piazza di San Marco has been illuminated, only with a mezza illuminazione, but still it was very beautiful, nor can anything be otherwise in the magnificent theater of this stately square. In addition, they opened the opera house of the Venice, and lighted it up. An illuminara in one of the great opera houses is almost a national event in an Italian town. I never witnessed one before, and now could understand the excitement that it occasions. The price of boxes was very high, some 60 swanzakers and more. Signor kindly brought me the keys of a very good box, opposite that occupied by the royal party. We went early, the whole house was full. The passages and corridors, all brilliantly lighted, were filled with the common people, admitted without paying. Nothing could be more animated, more gay. Our gondolier, one of whose offices this is, paid for us, and showed us the way to our box. When the door opened we were dazzled. It was like a scene in fairyland. Accustomed to our few wax candles, and the deforming, somber light of gas, the innumerable lights that shed more than day over the whole house, produced an effect of brilliancy and elegance quite indescribable. There had been much debating as to the opera. Gazzaniga wished to have the Montecchi e Capuletti, as she shone in the part of Romeo. But the primo buffo did not like to be excluded from singing before HRIH. Accordingly, the opera of Kai Dura Vince was fixed on, in which Gazzaniga had a prominent serio-comic part. The story of the play is similar to that of Our Honeymoon, and the way in which she acted the angry, deluded bride was very amusing. This opera is by Rixai, and has a few agreeable airs in it, though nothing rising above mediocrity. The Archduke went away before the opera was over. Royal personages labor so very hard, and the Archduke was to leave Venice at 4 the following morning. He went in a steamer to view the seawall building at Malamocco, and thence is to proceed by steam to Trieste. Another steamer accompanied him, and the first people of Venice and all strangers were invited, as for a party of pleasure. I had a sort of forefeeling I should not like it, for though I was assured the steamer would make the voyage in the lagoon on this side Lido, I did not quite believe that to be possible. So it proved. The steamers took to the open sea, which was rather rough, and though plenty was provided to refresh and entertain the guests, very little was eaten.